Hello everyone and welcome to an Unreal Engine 4 tutorial on creating a modular system for handling checkpoints. Let's jump in. The core of our system will be an interface that allows us to treat any object as if they have the ability to respawn or go back to the state that we dictate. To create this, right-click in the content browser, go to Blueprints, and click Blueprint Interface. I'm just going to name it with the prefix BPI and call it _checkpoint actions. Let's open it up. Once open, we are given a starter function. Let's rename this to respawn. You don't need to provide any inputs or any outputs. For the purposes of the system, that's all we need to do here, so let's move on to our checkpoint actor. Right-clicking in the content browser once more, under Blueprints, select Blueprint Class. The blueprint type, choose Actor as a checkpoint will need to exist in the scene. Rename it to BP_checkpoint, and double-click to open it. Before we get into codifying this actor, let's create the components we need to actually interact with our checkpoint actor. Click the Add Components button, and search for a box collision. Add it and rename it to Detection. Take a moment to resize it to a reasonably large size or enough to act as a base size to place in our scene. This will represent the space in which if the player touches it, they will record this as their last touch checkpoint. That's all we need in terms of components. The first piece of codification we need is a public actor array variable to hold the list of all actors we wish to respawn. To do this, click on the plus variable button on the left side of the screen and call this new variable respawn actor list. Select this variable and in the details panel, let's change the type from boolean to actor reference. Also, make sure to click the little eyeball icon next to the variable to make it publicly accessible as well. Once changed, select this little icon next to the type dropdown and choose the array icon. Now, let's use this in a short script. In the event graph, create a new function using the plus function button on the left side of the screen and call it respawn actors. It does not require any inputs or any outputs, and inside, from the entry pin, create a for each loop node. In the array pin, plug in a get reference to our array variable we created earlier. This will loop through each item in the array and call their associated respawn function. From the execute pin of the for each loop, look up the respawn function interface call. Plug the actor pin to this function as the target. To explain what's happening here, is interfaces can allow us to call functions targeting actors that don't necessarily have those functions. It'll be easier to understand what this means when we get to the end. For now, let's finish off the system. Let's move on to a test object that can be respawned. Navigating back to our content browser, right-click, go to the Blueprints tab, and make another blueprint actor. This time, name it BP_box, and open it once renamed. First things first, let's give it some visuals. Go to the Add Components tab, click the plus button, and search for Static Mesh. Add it, and drag it on top of the default scene root in order to make it the new root object. And in the Details panel, for the Static Mesh property, change it to the cube. Then, if we scroll down, make sure to turn physics on. With that done, we need to give this actor the ability to receive the function calls using the interface that we created earlier. To do this, we need to attach the interface to this object. Let's click the Class Settings button at the top of this window, and in the Details panel on the right side, click the Add Interface button. In here, select our newly created interface. With our interface attached, we can now incorporate that interface's functions. In the Event Graph window, right-click and look up Respawn. You should see an option that, when selected, creates an event node. This node is us using the interface's respawn function, meaning if any other actors point to this actor and call respawn, they are calling this specific event. Now, let's define what this actor's respawn event does. Let's create a variable called origTransform, of the type transform. Navigate to the begin play event and add a set of our origTransform variable. From the set pin, look up getActorTransform. This will, upon the game starting, save this actor's transform into a variable in which we can restore it to if it is moved while the game is running. Going back to our respawn event, look up setActorTransform. Connect this to the event node and grab a get reference to our origTransform variable and plug it into the transform pin. Lastly, we need to make sure that when we teleport this object back to its starting position, because it's simulating physics, we clear its velocity so it teleports completely still. To do that, from our setTransform node, look up setPhysicsLinearVelocity. There should be an option pointing to the static mesh component. After that, we also need a setPhysicsAngularVelocity in degrees node. For this one, we need to provide it an empty vector, so from the new angvel pin, look up makeVector. With that, our respawnable actor is finished. The last thing we need to do before we can test the system out though, is having the player actually interact with the checkpoint actor and recording it so that when they die, they can trigger the correct respawn. Let's set that up. Let's go back to our content browser, find our first-person character blueprint, and open it up. In here, we need to have some code that detects if we interact with a checkpoint actor specifically. Let's select our capsule collision component, and if we scroll down to the very bottom of the details panel, we'll find a ton of options for events. The second one from top is what we want, the on component begin overlap event. Click the plus sign button. This will generate the appropriate event in the event graph. From here, we want to guarantee that the actor we are overlapping is, in fact, the checkpoint actor. A surefire way to do this is to, from the other actor pin, look up get class. This is the object's original construction blueprint, which is unable to change during the game, meaning it's definitive. From this node, let's look up class as child of. This node will then check if the class we are referencing is what we think it is. In the drop-down, look up the checkpoint actor value. Now, let's create a branch and hook everything up to it. With that, we are guaranteed to know if we encountered a checkpoint actor. From the true pin on the branch, let's look up cast to BP_checkpoint, plugging the other actor output pin into the target input pin. This will convert the generic actor reference of the event node to a specific reference to the checkpoints, granting us access to all of this unique information. We now need a way of storing this reference to a checkpoint actor. Let's right-click the actor output pin and select promote to variable. This will generate a variable for us, which we can name last checkpoint. From here, all we need to do is merely, using this variable, call the respawn actor's function. For the sake of this tutorial, let's just use a simple test event instead of going through the hassle to set up a unique death circumstance. Right-click in the event graph and look up T-key. Find the T-input action event and add it. Let's also add a get reference to our last checkpoint variable. And from that, call the respawn actor's function. Hook this up to the pressed pin on the input action event, and we officially have all the code we need in place. Let's actually get the scene set up and see our system in action. In the viewport, let's drag our checkpoint actor into the scene in a spot that suits a checkpoint, and then drag in a couple instances of our respawnable actor. Then, select our checkpoint actor, and if we look in the details panel, we can see our array variable visible. Let's add some slots, and then for each slot, use the eyedropper to pick each one of our actors we wish to respawn. With that done, let's play. First, let's make sure to walk through our checkpoint to record it as our last touch checkpoint. Then, let's shoot the respawnable actors to disturb their position. Now, let's press T and see everything suddenly return to their original positions. As you can tell, once our code was set up, it was an incredibly short process to add in our checkpoint, target the actors we wish to respawn, and then have everything work while we play. You could easily expand the system to include more types of actors, unique respawn steps by utilizing the power of the interface, and determining how you wish to respawn the player, whether that's destroying and respawning the actor, or just teleporting it back to its original position like we do with the objects. An additional idea, if you wish to explore it, is along with teleporting the objects back to their original locations, you may also want to call some sort of reset stats function in order to reset things like enemy health, player stamina, etc. The choices are really endless. And that's it. Thank you once again for joining me. If you liked this video or found it useful, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Most importantly though, leave your thoughts and ideas in the comment section below as I'd love to hear them. See y'all in the next one.